Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. Today you join me on the banks of an ice cold river ribble. As you can see on screen now in the opening shots, it was ice cold this morning when we arrived on the bank. A lovely mist was in the Ribble Valley, and as we come up the M6 the temperature plummeted. Round the northwest it's been round about 0, -1. As we moved up the country it would drop to -2 and -3. As you can see, hard frost on the bank, but what we have got is a beautiful calm day. With the temperatures this low, it's always going to be uncertain fishing. Don't get me wrong, you know, there's a lot of fish in the river Ribble, so you do expect to catch 1 or 2, but with these type of days where it's such a hard frost, you never really know. So the rod that we're going to be using today on the stick float is Korum's brand new flagship glide rod. It's a float rod available in 13 foot, and then this one is a 12 foot with a 2 foot extension, taking it to 14. And today I'll be fishing it at 14 foot. It's a lovely looking rod, as you can see on screen now. It looks the part, feels well balanced, and I've been excited for a long time to use this rod. I've had it about a month, and I did have the Dane in mind for it, you know, for chub, dace, but the river's been a bit of a mess. So today, fishing that bit closer in, I'm excited to get out on my first session with this rod. It's been a long time coming. The reel that I've paired it with is a korum axis, and on there I've got 4 pound 4 ounce float fish. So fishing close in today, I've gone with an 8 number 4 stick float, a nice visible tip when you're going down the river, and I'm hoping today to have that right dotted right down in the water. The shotting pattern is number 6s, and I've got number 6 Dinsmore shots evenly distributed down the line to a bulk of number 6s. What we got there, 5, and then I've got 2 number 8 droppers to a size 18 hook. And the reason why I've gone with an 18 is obviously I'm planning to fish maggot today, but I have got tares as well, and that hook is just big enough to fish a tare as well. So that is the stick float setup that I'm going to be using today. We'll have a quick look at the swim in a minute, and my thoughts on the session. I think it's going to be hard. There's a lot of fish in the river Ribble at this time of year, and there's been quite a few fish topping, but when it's this cold it can be really hard, and I think we're going to have to feel our way into the session and really work out the swim. It could be a day where we only catch 5 pound of fish, it could be a day where we get 10-20 pound, but I'm going to err on the side of 5 and work my way into the session and see how it goes. So let's have a look at the swim that we're going to be fishing and the baits that we're going to be using. No Danny's angling blog would be complete without Mr. Swan, but this guy does worry me because he does eat all the bait you drop on the bottom, and you have to be careful obviously when you're, you know, unhooking fish and line is at your feet, that he's not about. He's obviously used to picking up bait on the swims and has no fear. He's a lovely looking swan, and it's nice to get so close, but you do have to be careful. So enough about Mr. Swan. Let's have a look at the swim. In the side tray we've got Cheshire Particle hemp, red maggots, got some tares from Cheshire Particle, and in the ground bait bowl behind me I've got 1.5 kilo of hinders supercharged. And what I'm going to be doing is at the start of the session just feeding 2 or 3 balls like that into the swim, you know, aimed at getting them quality roach in. It'll put some bait on the bottom and give me something to run over with the float. So the swim that we're fishing today, with it being so clear, I don't think the fish are going to come really close in. I'm going to be putting my maggots here and my hemp here and hoping to get some fish where that shadow is. From where I'm looking compared to the screen, it's a lot closer, and I said at the start I'm just going to feed round about there 1 or 2 of the balls of ground bait, and they can just run over the top of that. It might just be a day today, like I said, where you've just got to take it easy, not feed too heavy. So I'm trying to feed the hemp as close to me as I can, so if the line does start freezing quite a bit, I've not got to go as far down the river, and then just edge the bait over the top of it. That float's dotted right down and there's not a breath of wind. The thing I do like about this ground bait when it's clear is it's one of them ground baits you can see it's active, you can see the bubbles coming up off the bottom, so it helps you to work out the area where the ground bait is and going over. Some of you may have seen the pike rod in the edge there. See, I've got some gear with me today to unhook a pike and a unhooking mat, and if there's one about, then it's probably going to have this one, which is a good start really. You've seen it there like almost live. We've had a fish on the second trot and it's a roach. I'm just showing how cold it is. The net's frozen upside down. Start to go, it's a quality start that, you know, second trot down to get a decent roach like that is a confident start. Sometimes these roach, obviously if it's too cold, they don't feed, and it's the dace you rely on. So to get a roach first trot down bodes well for, you know, getting a couple maybe. You don't want to count our chickens, but second trot down, good to get a bite. And the first fish on the glide, and Mr. Swan in the background. It's an excellent start. So after that early roach, it's been a good 40 minutes before our next one. The temperature really dropped, as it does early morning at first light, and it has been a slow start to the session. There's that roach, and it's been some time coming. It just shows with days like this, if it's tough, you've just got to keep persevering. Must have had 20, 30 more trots over that line since that first fish, and that come right over the hemp. Hopefully as that sun, which you've just seen before this fish coming through the trees, gets on the water, we may get a flurry of action, but it's going to be one of them days I think where we just got to stick with it. And you never know with the river, fish can just turn on like that, and before you know it, if you get 10 or 15 of these, we'll have a nice net of them at the end. But that is a hand warming roach. Let's get it straight back. It is a weird session today. The amount of time that we're waiting between bites is mad. It's, you know, lots of trotting, and then all of a sudden you're rewarded with a roach. And I say they're worth waiting for, but a very tough day on the bank. And like I say, it's been about 2 or 3 hours of the session now, and we've probably had about 10 fish, but they've all been of a nice stamp. And the very next trot down, the float's buried again. It's crazy. You can go 30-40 minutes without a bite, and then 2 in 2 casts. It feels a nice fish, and so you don't mind waiting for the bites when, you know, when you get one, they are a decent fish. And it's a billy, which could be why we're not getting any smaller fish if some of these are about. It does look a nice one. I'm just going to take my time and say Rod's playing it okay, and see if we can get him in. What a lovely perch that is. £1, 10 ounces, and it's green armour. And if there's one or two of them down there, they could be the reason why the roach fishing's been a bit slow. But it just shows if you just persevere going down that line, you know, stick with it, you don't mind when the fish are that quality. That's a lovely perch, that, you know, big shoulders and olive flanks. It's been a hard morning so far, lots of trotting, but well worth it with that one. Let's get it straight back. When people ask me why I love river fishing so much, it's because days like this where, you know, this is the first cast again after that other perch, and we've got another small billy coming to the bank, and that for me is the beauty of river fishing. You can, you know, 2 or 3 hours of not getting a bite, and then all of a sudden a shoal arrives. How long they'll stay for is anyone's guess, but that is why I just love the rivers. I mean, a shoal of roach could appear, these could quite have easily been a, you know, a shoal of chub or anything, and with a river you'd always feel like something can happen. And like always on the river, the fish are fin perfect, and again, it just shows if you persevere with it, you know, you can still see me breath, it's still very cold, but with a river you never know. And let's see what's on the next cast. Just into another nice fish. It's gone upstream, which is always a good sign. And so there has been an arrival of perch in the swim, so it possibly could be another billy, but there has been 1 or 2 nice roach knocking about, and though it's a nice perch, and it is another nice billy. And there we go, second nice perch, going £1, 10 ounces, so slightly smaller than the first, and more than welcome. And our session concern round, normally I would put the camera behind me and try and get a couple of shots of the bites, but today, let's say 30 or 40 minutes between bites earlier on, it's just not been possible. When we started getting a couple, I'll put the camera behind me and see if we can get a few shots, but more than made up with that. I had 1 or 2 nice roach, not many fish, and then them 2 lovely perch, and it just shows our shoal moves in. The roach have been non-existent, and then these guys just bullying the way in and literally taking over. Second nice fish, and well worth the effort, and it has been a lot of effort today. Let's get this lovely fish straight back. And I don't know whether it's a coincidence or not, but them maggots at the start were pretty lifeless. There was not much movement in them at all, and all of a sudden they just seem to be a bit more movement. Whether that means that the temperature has rose a bit, and that's why them fish have had a bit of a flurry. If you're looking up, you can see the sun hasn't even got over the hill today. It's been shined on this bank a little bit, but it's barely broke them trees. Just trotting the float through the swim now, just holding it back and edging it through the swim, and hopefully there'll be 1 or 2 more fish before the end of the vlog. Quickly as them perch arrived, they seem to have disappeared, and in their place a lot of these little small roach. And I guess if Mr. Perch was still about, then these roach wouldn't be, because they would most certainly be on both them perches menu. I'm moving into the last hour of the session with the light dimming. This is when you'd expect these roach to come on the feed, and that one is a lovely one to end the session on. Let's have a look at that final net and see how we've done. Right, so the session comes to an end there now, and as you can see on the ground behind me, the frost really didn't lift all day. It's probably been one of the coldest days on the bank I can remember for a long time. On your face and your fingers, yeah, it was a cold one all right, and that frost behind me was on there this morning and hasn't lifted all day. So on the channel we've had bigger nets of fish, most certainly, but that was hard work for today, and I've thoroughly enjoyed trying to put that little net together because it was really tough on the bank. And that is why we put all the blogs up on the channel, because it shows that it's not always 10, 15, 20 pound of fish. Days like today where you grind out a few fish and work for every bite can be some of the most enjoyable fishing that I do. The days where it's a bite of chuck and they're right on your hemp, you know, it's enjoyable, but sometimes not hard. Today was a hard day on the bank, but an enjoyable one. A quick word about the rod. I was impressed today with the power of the rod. We dealt with them perch really well, had a nice action to it. It is the first session out on it, and I can't wait to get out for the chub and the barbel next year. I think it'll be an excellent rod for the River Dane, where you're going to come across dace and chub. It's going to have the backbone to get them fish out of them snags if you're fishing close to snags. One thing that did impress me with it was its ability to hit bites and not bump fish of that size. That, for me, is more important than the ability to get a big fish in. If it can get the small fish and not bump the bites, and it can also tackle the big fish, you know, it's a good start for the rod. Like with all pieces of tackle, an opinion comes over time, so you'll definitely see it on the channel in the months to come, and when we've been out a couple of times with it, we'll see how we do. But for now, a very cold Danny is wishing you all tight lines in your living rooms, watching the blog, tight lines in your own fishing, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.